All right, here we go. So Jerry, love that you're here today. Thank you for talking with me about the work and how you found it. I think it's so powerful. So I know we were just talking before pushing the record button.
Yeah, well, it was a good little practice.
Yeah, exactly. And say a little more about what things were like before you found the work. I know you said that you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's really interesting. I have that on my bookshelf. Yeah, that's right in there. So, but it does sound like you were searching and looking. So yeah,
Yeah.
back there and kind of say a little bit about what that was like.
Yep. My marriage was going south, and a friend had given me that book, and so I had this kind of dark moment where I thought, there's got to be something in which I can transform myself, and so I grabbed that book and I started reading it. And in that book, it mentions Gandhi, and I hadn't seen the movie, and I had all kinds of assumptions about what nonviolence was, and they were promptly blown away. Read 5 books by Gandhi, started getting into Buddhism, Alan Watts, and all kinds of teachers, Eckhart Tolle. And as I said earlier, he was a good primer for finding Katie.
When was this? When was it? Because I know that book's been around for a while, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like 15 years ago?
This was probably 12 to, boy, it could be as much as 15 years ago now. I'm not exactly sure, but it's in that kind of 12 to 15 year range. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it could be 15. Anyway, so I was a little bit into Eckhart Tolle. I was also in the habit of searching on Google Video keywords like, consciousness, science of mind, spirituality, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And came across this odd video that started out with this intro disclaimer saying what you were about to see may seem unkind and radical, and we invite you to be gentle with yourself. And this was like foreign language to me, and so I really wanted to know, because what I was looking for, I knew it was radical, and so I watched this video. It was an hour-long interview or facilitation with a musician, and the first 5 minutes of it really had me, because she's talking about how the mind asks the question and the heart answers. And by the end of the facilitation, which was about an hour long, I was really hooked. I just knew it was what I was looking for.
Wow.
Particularly because I had some things happen prior, like years before, that were almost like comparisons to the work. For example, I read a book on vegetarianism. Actually, I read halfway through a book on vegetarianism. And, I had tried a couple times to become vegetarian before, only to fail pretty quickly. And then I read this book, and it was so, it didn't have any kind of hyperbolic, radical, it was not activist. It was John Robbins telling what he knew about the industry. And in reading this, I found one day I'm reading the book, and I've got a chicken burrito in one hand, and I'm eating it, and I just stopped. So my mind changed fundamentally because of what I was reading, and I never wanted meat again. And so that was like this paradigm that was already set. That was like in 2000. And when I found Katie, it was 2007 or 2008. Also, Also, prior to that, there was a thing where I was having an argument with my ex-wife, wife at the time, and I was just, it was a stubborn quality that I still have, that it's like, why is it that we're two intelligent people? Why can't we see this thing? Why can't we come to terms with this? It doesn't make why can't we, what am I missing? Is the question that came to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I stubbornly stayed in this question. I stayed in it, I stayed in it, and something popped in that was like I hadn't previously thought of. So it was my own like discovering of a single question of like my own work, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And so, and I went and told her, but the thing was like my insight, you know, was basically saying we're kind of both wrong, or, you know, nobody wants to hear they're wrong. So she wasn't impressed.
Yeah, that's great. But I love that it's in the most simple way you found a question
Mm.
very powerful. Like, yeah, what is my answer? What, I don't know. I need to sit here about this answer, because that is something I've sometimes thought about with the work. It's like 4 questions, but really questioning oneself goes back. It just cross traditions, religions.
Yeah. Socrates was like the early, the first self-inquirer, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yes. It's kind of, well, let's look at this. Who am I? What's going on? What am I thinking? Where does thought come from? You know, but anyway, it's all, and it's also so fast. And even though you kind of can have those moments where you wonder, like, what is going on here? Where am I? You know, like I sometimes think that. I probably think that every other day. You know, like, this is so weird. You know, there's a just location, and that we don't know anything, you know, that I kind of think I know something, but I don't really know anything. And it's very odd, but yeah, that's interesting that, I love you shared that, you know, you had some kind of, wondering about what am I missing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, it works here and there as a work question too, you know, like, it's similar to the, what are you not noticing kind of thing.
Yes.
You know?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Which is such a great, that's sort of a little, like jumping over to question 3, it's sort of, which is, of course, who would you be? No, it's how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? But then all the sub questions, like, to help you get into it. It's such a grand question. Like, how do I react? What happens when I believe it? There's so much that goes on. And I like that those sub questions are really interesting.
Yeah. Those are really, you know, there's been times when I've done the work where I I would think of doing one of those questions, and then the thought comes in. I heard there's nothing there, you know. Like the ego kind of jumps in. It's like, no, I don't need anything from that, or there's not going to be any good answer.
Yeah.
And I notice it, and it's just like, okay, so maybe there is something there, you know.
Yeah.
And I've found that it hasn't let me down ever. You know, that it's, yeah, as soon as you're dismissive of one of these questions, or even asking it again, I found that there's so much to be found. Yeah, so to have all those different sub questions is really great, because there is so much. And I've even gone back over my work. I was just sharing with somebody yesterday that it's really helpful to look at it again, and as I'm kind of letting it sink in again, other examples will also pop in even then, you
I
know?
love that when that happens. I've had the same
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, something you feel kind of done with, but you just reflect back on and go, oh, huh. Or here comes
Yeah.
an example in your life. Like, I've been surprised by that. Like, oh, this is an example of a turnaround for that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, okay, so you were reading, so you got Gandhi and influencers, and then you watched Katie do this inquiry, and you were really moved. Then what happened after that?
I went on to pretty much listen to every video and audio I could find. I didn't read right away. And I also went to my first event that following summer, like maybe it was around this time of year, May. And then, you know, going to an event, that's when you really get hooked. You know, for me, it was anyway. And a woman had given me a website that had a bunch of old audios that are now on YouTube, by the way.
Yes,
And
I love
so I
that.
went and I listened to those. There was like 100 of them. I listened to those like 3-4 times, and
Yeah.
yeah, I continue to go to events. I went to my first school in 2009.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you, either from an event or from the school is interesting because it's 9 days of doing the work. So it's, even if you feel resistant at first, you're still there. um, like, what did anything that you remember, like somebody else's work or your own work that really, I don't know, had a big impact?
At one of the events, huh? Hmm, that's a good question. I never stopped to consider that. Uh, there's one part of the school we really can't go into that. So
Yeah.
let me see. Yeah, at least not right away. There's nothing that sticks out in my mind about the events. I found that the most um, changing, or what's the word I'm looking for? Big aha moments came just on my own doing,
Ah, cool.
doing the work. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
It,
So,
you know, I
yeah.
will say this. I will say this. There was a time, boy, this would may have been around 2010 or 2011, that I had seen Katie in New York State, and she modeled the work.
Ah,
And and I got to say that was really, I had been in it for a few years then already, but I still didn't really get the meditation thing, and I think seemingly a lot of people miss that. Um, that you're asking the question and waiting for it to show up rather than, just, mind with mind kind of thing. And
ah,
that was like really good to help describe it to people too, because I started realizing, this is like how mind works even when you're not doing the work. Like, say you're trying to think of a street name, or you're trying to think of a movie star's name and it's not coming to you. And let's say you don't have Siri like the way you do now.
yeah.
And so you're trying to think of it and you're trying to think of it. And everybody knows from experience, when you're going after it, it doesn't show up. And it's when you stop trying to go after it, it's when it pops in your head, And so it's to get that mechanism, and to see that's how it goes in the work and is most effective that way. That was really great. Um,
How did that look when Katie demonstrated that? Like, what was she actually doing?
yeah, she took like a sample of a, a concept, a stressful thought, like he doesn't care about me or something. And so she just sat there and is it true? And she closed her eyes. And then she said, I'm looking to see if there's a no. I've given like equal time. I've given plenty of time to yes. And
Uh-huh.
so now I'm looking to give equal time to no. And,
Wow.
and so, and I loved hearing that because, I was doing it that way. But one of the things that was kind of interesting was I was only considering no for a while, because I thought, okay, ultimately nothing's true. But what that did was, for a while, I wasn't honoring that I was in yes,
Yeah,
and so,
that's an
yeah,
interesting one, right? I love you bring that point up because sometimes people say, no, it's always no, nothing's true.
yeah.
And then you're,
How
yeah,
many yes is supposed to be no, right?
yeah, it's supposed to be no. If I was in the no, then I'd feel calmer, or whatever, for whatever reason.
Mm.
I love this one video of Katie doing the work, called Turn It Around, the movie. It's more highly produced. And it has a bunch of segments of people doing the work. And I show it at retreats sometimes because it's very edited,
Yeah.
but you get the gist. And this one young woman, whose brother died in Afghanistan, was killed. is she's doing the work on My Brother Died, and it tore the family up and all this stuff. And Katie asked her the very first question, like, my brother died, and is it true? And she's like, well, no, because he's in my mind, or like, she's, and Katie says, it was great because it was just, I won't be able to tell you exactly, but it was like, if he feels like he died, and that's really what it feels like to you, and that's what you're doing this work for, and what's in the worksheet, and your answer is yes, then it's, yeah. And then she goes, then yes, he died. It was like, just
Yeah.
he's saying yeah, my brother died. He was killed. He isn't here anymore. I'm really looking at this. That's a huge inquiry. I mean, matter of life or death, it's amazing. Yeah. Anyway, it was just really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I just worked with somebody, I think 2 days ago now, on death. And yeah, that's the kind of work that it really as Katie says, it takes a lot of stillness. And it's no joke. It's no exaggeration.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't mean all that incredible grief isn't there. It's very, very powerful, but you can still go through the questions. That's what's amazing about it.
Yeah. So, it does. Yeah. And if your answer is yes, you can still go on. And 3, you can find those answers easier. And, considering 4 is another thing. And even to go through it, as Katie would say, also gently, just do it gently. And, you can always glean something from just going through that process. And then, somebody who's still grieving is going to, I'm sure, do many worksheets and many times through the process. And it does start to loosen up eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I noticed that too. It's just a practice, which, like meditation, you don't say, oh, I think I'll meditate one day and then I'm peaceful from then for the rest of my life.
Or the first day you're just sitting there, I'm going to do 8 hours.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to quit this thing.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to really try. Yeah. So, okay, cool. You went to the school. What was it like then? And that's a really beautiful thing, actually, that you're sharing, that the significant things came on your own, like being able to take the time and do the work. So what was it like when you were doing the work after that, or, share from there, maybe. And if you remember one where something kind of went, wow, and you had a real light bulb moment, if you remember.
One of the events, it kind of came to me that this is what I love about the work, that it's it fits in well with other ancient traditions and mystic traditions. And it came to me at some point that you really can't want anything. That was like this kind of insight that I had. And I was brought up Roman Catholic, and I, rejected all that stuff when I was in my late teens. And but because I knew a lot about things from the Bible and quotes and so forth. And I think one of the Psalms says, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want."
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought, yeah, if the universe, the Lord, the reality, God, whatever it is, you're in tune or in touch with that completely. There's no wanting. And so I think like all of that stuff has things that you can find in it if you know how. Well, what would actually, you could take the work and you could say, how is that true? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, And so it's a matter of meditating and gleaning, and once again, just finding the wisdom that's there in front of you all the time,
Wow.
I find that the wisdom shows up in just daily expression sometimes too. Nothing's popping into my head at the moment, but it's all there, and it's just waking up to it.
Yeah, that's so cool. So basically you had You had a really, just noticing I can't want anything, or like if you did, it just leads to suffering. If it's not, I, there's all the simple ways of that being true, but yeah, the energy of wanting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always a future story.
Yeah.
Whether it's 2 seconds or milliseconds or whatever in the future.
Yeah.
But me now, I can never want anything
Wow.
except what I have, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just so simple. That, yeah, like Kitty says, this work is just too simple, and it can seem complicated, but it's so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
that's like so inspiring. I also was attracted to it because I don't have to do anything. I love not having to do anything. That's like the best thing in the world. Is like, wait a second. You mean all I have to do is just notice something, and then life is like a breeze? Like, I'm in. I'm in. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. It's true, isn't it?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
great. Right. There's not even any, you come to the end of a piece of work. You might have an awareness. I like that, the idea of living turnarounds. You know, you might have some kind of awareness like, oh my God, I see this differently. I see
Yeah.
what I was doing there. Or, but it just naturally happens that you have an insight, and maybe you even do something to clean it up, or there's an apology or something, but that's not even required unless it feels right.
Well, that, you mentioned the apology thing too. That was something that was also I think of it. I just want to I don't know what, like, I was, as a kid, and many kids are, they're forced to apologize sometimes. So you get this negative association with apologizing.
Yeah.
And so, the making amends is the other term for it. And um, in the work, I found that it was harder not to,
Well,
and like, so I wanted to actually do it one time. I'm thinking of one time in particular, and then you also see, I've seen this in quotes, and I've heard Katie say things. It's like, when you change how you live, or when your living changes as a result of seeing it, like, that's the best apology right there.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, for me, the living turnarounds live themselves if you've really done your work.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I also, from the living turnaround idea and just results of the work, I have really appreciated that often the apology most necessary or most obvious is to myself. Like all that criticism, or all
Mhm.
this self criticism, and the, what I guilt,
Yeah.
it's to myself, and yeah, like I even get that in my own, as I connect with somebody and say, what happened in that other time, and I was doing this and this happened, and um yeah, it'll be kind of ultimately with myself.
Yeah, that's a really interesting insight. Because that's really cool to hear that, because I'm noticing that I didn't do any kind of amends until it was well into the work, years into it. And you saying this is just making me think now. Yeah, it's getting in touch with self-forgiveness, like, on a fundamental level, that enables you later to actually make these. So I say to people, if you don't want to make an amends, don't do it. If there's even 1% hesitation or whatever, just don't do it. You
Yep.
know, just stay in the work, and your living will change, and you may find that when you speak to them, you want to do it. There was even one time that I apologized to somebody in this way. I said, "Remember that time that I did X, whatever it was?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, I want you to know, when I did that, I was thinking that you, whatever what that was. And I said, I want you to know I don't think that anymore, because I question it, or just I don't think it anymore. And that's like how my apology or amends came out. And for me, because that was like the truth that I had then, you know, like I didn't, to me, that was really conveying what had changed in me, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Which is great. It's sort of sharing, wow, I see I didn't see everything then. I was blind to something. This is what this is what my mind was doing at the time. And
Yeah.
I get something about that because I've looked at it.
Well,
Yeah.
what I also liked about it when I look back on it, it's like there's not making anybody wrong, including me.
So huge. Yeah. It's such a big deal. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's powerful. And it's really important in this work is ideas about apologizing and forgiveness and what it is. You know, you're supposed to forgive, like you said.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be doing that. Sometimes people will say, I know I need to forgive so-and-so, but I can't, and it's like, great, you can't. That's the reality. You can't at the moment.
Yeah.
Reality.
Yeah, argue with that. Have fun with that. You end up with like inner violence when you're forcing yourself to apologize when you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
You know, and so really that inner forgiveness isn't really there.
Yeah.
You know, and
like that's really, really about any part of the work. It's just like that. This is not a have to get anywhere. You don't have to get anywhere with this. It's like just noticing how wonderful it is to not believe everything you're thinking when it's stressful. It's a great thing to not believe what you're thinking when it's stressful. Wow, that might not be 100% absolutely true. Nice.
Yeah.
That's good for me. That's good for me. Yeah. So what are other things that you've found, as you continue to practice the work? Like what's kept you in the work?
Oh yeah. What's kept me in the work? Sometimes I've had some clients that will say, I'm not doing the work, and I think I should be, and my thought was, go to what inspired you to the work in the first place. Go rewatch some of the videos, reread the books, listen to the audios, and I find, or even the most inspiring thing of all is going to the events too. It's such a great thing to reignite it.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, just you could just question that like informally. I need to be doing the work.
Right.
And then if you don't do that, then you're not gonna. Life will just push you back in.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? It's like you kind of don't. Yeah, I've noticed this sort of not doing it about something, or I've done that before. I've been working on this person forever. I don't want to do it again. I've had it with that or something, but like there's just resistance. And what's kind of wonderful is noticing sometimes what else are you going to do? Like the resistance is already there.
Yeah.
Does anything else? You could forget about it for a while by there's a bunch of different distractive things, addiction is great for, like you can escape, but it's always temporary. It's not that pleasant.
I mean, I will say that, since finding the work, I've been most of my focus goes there. There are still other teachers and practices that interest me. Rupert Spira is one. Also, nonviolent communication has been actually pretty helpful, sometimes even in finding turnarounds.
Yeah.
Even, when I talked about giving the amends or the apology, in that way, it was kind of partly inspired by nonviolent communication,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
not making anybody wrong. And so, what was something else I was going to say there? Oh, in doing, redoing, you mentioned redoing the work on people you've already done it on. And as I mentioned earlier, just a couple days ago, I was going over some work I had done, and finding these other examples when you're redoing it is really a cool happenstance, and
Mm.
related to something. And oh, right, it's like you think you've done the work on somebody, and there's still more of it, and so you don't realize that there are these little bits that are still there. And when you just so what I do is when I especially answers that are very resonant, I'll write them down. And so there'll be a whole bunch of conditions, and I'll just take one that's maybe the most resonant, and I'll just kind of close my eyes and just let it sink in, let it have me, as Arcadia said.
Uh-huh.
And as I say, yeah, the other examples will kind of show up there, and then you really find that you're done with it. It activates your living, your soul, whatever.
Yeah. Got it.
And
Yeah.
then there's no force necessary. There's no remembering I have, or there's no planning,
Yes, 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 yes.
Did you ever hear, Katie? This was recently in Ojai. It was that one of the free events. Uh, I think so. But anyway, they were listing what was next on the schedule for her, and she just kind of quietly said, "I'm so glad I don't have to do any of that." And it's just like, of course you don't. That's a future you,
Yeah.
And I talked to somebody, and so in speaking with other people about it, I was wondering how many people didn't kind of pick that up, but yeah, ever present. The ever present mind doesn't have to do a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really going into that, what I love about it is, like, you could say, well, Byron Katie has other people managing, and so that's what I need. I need other people to manage the schedule, but you don't have it. No, we're talking about you actually don't need anything. I one time did the work. It was a long time ago, but it was very interesting because it wasn't sort of a deliberate sitting down and doing the work. I mean, I might have been driving, and I kind of joke with sometimes people that it's wonderful if you're thinking while you're driving, but it's not really, it's not really the work, like find it grounds like in an instant, But in this situation, I was, because I was late to get to my own home to meet with a client. Something like that. Or I'm just driving the car casually along. No, it was like I was late. Something about the schedule, something about the schedule. Mm-hmm. And noticing tension about this needs to be faster. And I thought that is this needs to go faster, literally. And it was such a wonderful awareness, because I realized that energy or that idea is not in just this with physically needing time to be like different than it is. It's like I have that impulse is in me with so many situations. It must be faster. Like the speed of it has to be now, like even wanting, I need the thing now,
Yeah.
And so just a question, and it was like, but I really need a calendar and a schedule and to have this organized and to figure it out and sort out how fast it's going to happen. And I remember, like, the very following day, an example of a turnaround rose up, because I suddenly remembered, oh, go look on your calendar that I wrote down, because I think you forgot that you have an appointment. Like you actually have a client this morning. And I opened up the calendar, and sure enough. And so I didn't leave the house yet, or it was just totally easy. The person never knew. It was almost going to be, in other words, it was like almost a repeat of the same, oh, I'm going to be like when I'm aware of it, it's terrible and I got to make this. I didn't even know. And it just popped in. I don't know. But, it just was so simple, such a tiny thing, but it was like, I don't have to be in charge. That was the main, I don't have to be in charge of even a schedule, and nobody does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The thinking, well, the thinking the cause of stress is such a block to the possibilities, and yeah, it makes you wonder, like, wow, if all these stressful thoughts just disappeared. Well, I guess you'd have what Katie had.
Right. Yeah.
Nice long laugh into the mirror, and
Yeah.
and just a blissful sense for a while. So yeah, that the idea that she was able to find these questions and keep it permanent, stay in touch with the present moment is just this huge gift to the world. And
yeah.
Sometimes I think, like, whether it's other people or even myself, thinking, it'd be great if this happened quicker, or wouldn't have to suffer. But occasionally you hear these stories, like I think it was Yuji Krishnamurti that said his awakening was like an ordeal to go through, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's like when it happens too fast, you just freak out, and it's even 10 times more stressful than any of the thoughts you're dealing with. It's like, say, be careful what you wish for, kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
How do you know? It's so great to question. Many people have that. I've had that. I need to wake up. Whatever this enlightenment thing is, it must happen. And assuming in the middle of that you are not awake, like you have,
right.
You have to be assuming that.
And assuming it's going to be permanent.
Yeah.
Assuming that something in the future is going to happen now, kind of.
Yeah. Right. And you're working towards it, and you're trying, you're trying, like the thing you said at the very beginning, trying to remember that name, and you don't remember it. Anyway, it's just very interesting. Yeah. Like in time, when any of this occurs, and that it goes the pace it needs to go ultimately.
Yeah.
Exactly. One more thing I wanted to talk about before we end is, we were talking last week about doing the work on oneself. I really like that you brought that up. Like, so many people come into the work, and the first initial thing that they say, I have that so often in retreats. They're all here to learn the work and do a retreat. Well, I want to do my first worksheet on myself, because that's the thing I have the most trouble with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then
it's me. I know it's me. It's not you. It's me.
Yeah. Right. And, yeah. So, and there's some wisdom in that, because it's like, well, yeah, you can't control anybody else's life, so we kind of get that. And of course, Katie, over and over again, will invite everyone to do the work on someone else, or something else that's outside of us.
Yeah. So what I came to was, because Katie has said a few times that, you come at us the way you come at yourself. And I saw how that was true in doing the work. So when I would have a client who's like, I want to do it about me. So instead of doing that, I would invite them to look and to see where they're taking that same concept about themselves and putting it on other people. And, whether it's, and most often it's going to be those closest relationships that's the easiest to find. But it could be a friend, and it could be, some kind of situation you haven't thought of right away. And so right there is a good little meditation. But I've found that in my experience, it doesn't take clients longer than like maybe 10 seconds to find it, where they put it on somebody else, you know? And it's, oh yeah, I think about him. It's like, okay, so let's do it. So doing it pointed out, that it comes back to you. And, you know, I shared with you when we talked before that Katie had given some explanation a couple of times. She's explained why. And it was, I found that she was saying that things like ego trick and so forth. And I thought that's great. And it's something is not clicking with me. I'm not clear on that answer. And so I had this long Uber ride back. And so I decided to meditate on it. And what I came to was I saw, here again, this nonviolent communication helped a little bit with this. So what I saw was there's an entity that's a judge, that's a you that is judging you.
Yeah, it almost says you. It almost has a thing like, you know, we're walking down the street and you trip just a little bit and you say, God, you know, you, like it says you inside your own head, like you should walk slower, you know, or like, you know, it's like sort of.
It's such a mess, you know.
Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. And so there's that judging entity, and then there's the you that's being judged. And, you know, if you look at it even closer, there's behind that, there's that presence that's seeing it, but it's identifying with each voice. So if you're going to be doing the work, you know, you have to be crystal clear on which you are in that moment, and that's why Katie says it can be done. But to just recognize that there are two different yous that you're coming from, it can be a good incentive to try and find the judge, to judge somebody outwardly. It can be so much more confusing than just, okay, there's me here and there's that person out there I'm judging. Simple, you know?
Right.
Again, the simplicity of the work, sometimes it astounds me. Like the way the questions are set up, if in the yes or no, love that it's yes and no, because the dancing around that you can do, and people frequently will do. So the one time that I worked with Katie, the session got cut short because we ran out of time. But I just thought, like, I've been in the work a while. I'm good. I know how to do it. I get up there, and I don't know if it's question one or two, but I started going into story. And she said, this is good. And she starts saying, you know, it's a yes or no, all this stuff. And I'm bewildered like that. I fell into that. And of course I realized that, of course I'm going to start going into story. I'm in front of like at least 200 people, you know, so ego's got to do its little saving dance, you know, like
make sure that I don't appear too crazy.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. That's so interesting. What were you doing the work on when you did that?
My ex-wife.
Yeah. Those primary partners are so amazing for the work. Incredible.
We're good friends now these days, and we always have like a great exchanges, you know, because she's on her spiritual path and I'm on mine. And there's whether it's just sharing stuff about what's going on with the kids or you know, what we're up to. You know, this is one of the many reasons why I love the work, because what comes to you in doing this stuff is wisdom that's so much beyond these like popular, whether it's just, I don't know, it's just not a saying so much as just like frequently used expressions like failed marriages. Like that stuff falls apart when you do the work. You see how, like, when this marriage started, it had, it ended. It began, it ended. And at some point during the marriage, it was not a marriage anymore, right?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
that marriage was a success. It had a beginning and an end, you
Uh-huh.
know? And so to
Yeah.
me, the idea of a failed marriage, it can't, there's no such
Yeah.
thing. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Yeah. Um, the other thing that I notice a lot, it's like a really popular meme is this idea of pushing oneself out of your comfort zone. And for me, that's also something that doesn't work for me. Uh, somebody, I was working with a client, and she was saying she was doing that, and I said, "Okay, is that you were pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, or was it just too painful to stay where you were?" Whereas your comfort zone was now something that looked different, you know. And then there's just this idea that, like, where I am now is lacking somehow. So in the future, I've got to be, there's a me that's got to control this thing of in the future. It's just none of this stuff stands up
Yeah.
to to well, it's not even, yeah, you could say inquiry, but also just having done so much inquiry, you kind of see through these ideas more
Yeah.
quickly than you would have otherwise, I suppose.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
right. It's wonderful. It's just great to know you just follow, as Katie says, follow the simple directions and just answer the questions for yourself. And you come to, like, so you don't have to memorize or get in more like of those get out of your comfort zone thing or whatever. You don't have to.
There's no, here again, it's like no doing, no following directions, no being, no loving yourself, right? That's another one. It's like,
Yeah.
that's another thing that becomes so clear. It's like how, if you look at, I just had a sip earlier. Like, if I couldn't pick this up, somebody who maybe loves me might have pick it up and give that to me. And it's like, you're always loving yourself. You're just not even aware of it. You know? It's
That's
just like, I need to go to the bathroom. I take myself there. I need food. Even when I'm doing something like trying to get love from somebody who doesn't love me, it's like there's still somebody there who's doing this stuff for me, even though they may not have the right directions or the right technique. It's like I'm always doing it. And it's just to wake up to that thing. So no, you don't have to love yourself at all. You've already been doing it your whole entire life. So
Yeah, and you've never left yourself your whole entire life. You're like, not in that way. You're right here. The only person right here the whole time is me.
yeah.
Now, that was one of my favorites. Is I've been abandoned. Everyone's abandoned me, but it's like so great to see. Everybody needs to come and go, and I'm here. I'm here the whole time.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
great. Yeah, so great to talk with you, Jerry.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Very
Oh, I
sweet.
love the sound of my own voice. Just go on and on. Speaking of loving yourself, right?
Oh, that's awesome. So funny. So you just send me information on how to contact you, because people will see this and share it on YouTube and
I shall do that.
yeah, I really, and a podcast. So
Yep, the website's not up yet, and when it is, I'll let you know. In the meantime, yep, on Facebook um, and also on thework.com, of course.
yes, that's a good thing to mention. Thework.com. People can find facilitators by even searching in their state or country. And you can find who's nearby if you want to see them in person. But like so many of us, we also all work on Zoom and Skype and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
all right. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Appreciate it.